I love that you brought up organic social media, because that's something that I think that is underappreciated.
Yeah.
Especially now, I feel like everyone is paying to play and they're just like stomping on each other and everyone's just trying to get louder. It's almost like a room of people screaming louder and then no one can hear them, right?
Totally.
I feel like everything's blending together. All the content's looking the same. Everyone's kind of following each other's lead and trying to be like each other. And it's this constant fitting in a sense. But in a way, I started scrolling reels. This is funny. And it took me halfway through the reel to figure out who the hell was posting it. Because they all look the same. Because I'm just like, who is this?
Yeah.
It's becoming less signature.
Yeah.
Less signature.
We've lost a little bit of the creativity because we've gotten to a place where, and this happens in every industry, but we collective, we see what works. And so we want to replicate what works. And we've stopped asking the question of why. So we've been asking a lot of how or what. And this happens with our clients all the time too. It's like how many emails should I send? What should I do next? What day should I have the masterclass on? What time should I have the masterclass on? And it's like taking a moment to stop and pause. There's so much power in the pause, and really start to ask, why did that person do it that way? Why do you send 13 emails? Why did you choose to do on a Tuesday at 3:00? And the funny thing is, a lot of times the answer is just going to be one you don't like. And it might be, well, that's when I had a time slot open in my calendar. Like there was no mystical, strategic, magical unicorn reason for me to pick 3:00 on a Tuesday. It's just, that's what fit. But that answer in itself is empowering, because now you, the client, the student, the person studying the other person's content, don't feel the need or obligation to do it that way. It's like, oh, interesting. My own decisions, my own gut intuition, my own trust in myself is enough. And so really taking a microscope or like a magnifying glass to our businesses and becoming the scientist. We really need to become scientists, because the other problem that we fall into is that humans are meaning-making machines. And so we make meaning out of everything, especially when something doesn't go our way. So we put out content, it doesn't get the result that we wanted or expected, which, by the way, expectations equal your experience. So just remove your expectations altogether and you'll have a better experience. But if it doesn't go our way, or we have a launch and nobody joins, then we start to create meaning out of that. That means I'm not valuable. It means I'm not good enough. It means I shouldn't have tried. It means I should just scrap the whole business. It means it's too saturated, blah, blah, blah. And so then we make decisions from a really poor place, right? A low vibration, scarcity, fear-based place, not a growth-minded place like you were talking about. So when we become a scientist, though, we get to go, okay, cool. My hypothesis is that when I blend this thing and this thing together, I'm going to get an explosion. When I have a masterclass on a Tuesday at 3 p.m., I'm going to have great conversion, right? And then we do the experiment and it doesn't explode. But instead of making it mean anything, we just say, great, I'm a scientist. It didn't explode. When I mix A and B together, they don't explode. So I'm going to write that down and I'm going to go back to the drawing board and I'm going to get another element. I'm going to try that other element and I'm going to put A and C together. And I'm just going to take the data and I'm just going to keep doing it over and over and over. And that truly is the difference between the successful long-term coaches and entrepreneurs that you see online and the ones who just kind of disappeared. Like maybe they had really rapid success and then they're gone, or maybe they've been struggling over and over. And maybe that's you listening, where you feel like you've been struggling or you haven't quite cracked the code. There's no magical code. It's consistency over time is just, that's all it is, right? And it's like and you've said it best. You, Shannon, have said it best. It's not giving up when it doesn't go your way the first time. And you can kind of share what that is, because I know you know what I'm talking about right now.
Yes. So and like consistency over time, but I'm going to actually modify that to say consistency of iterating over time.
Yes.
Because consistency over time can be insanity.
Yeah.
Doing the same thing over and over again. Yeah, but it's consistently iterating over time, but consistently consuming the feedback and iterating. And I think that's where people miss the mark, is they just take it as, that didn't work, I should stop. And then it's like,
throw it out and do something completely different.
Yeah. Like it was like, oh, that's a sign it didn't work. And I'm like, it reminds me of my friend who took the LSAT without studying, failed, and said, guess I'm not supposed to be a lawyer. I was like, but like, were you supposed to pass it if you didn't like, how does that work?
It's not a fair.
Yeah, that's not really a fair judgment, right? Yeah. So it's not a fair conclusion to draw without changing those variables. But to your point, I want to, for the listeners, I shared with Jess, because what she had taught us was how to launch and sell a digital course or group course or program. And I decided to, I mean, clearly I had zero build up, zero audience, anything. And I had zero attachment to outcome. I said, you know what? I'm going to do what she's telling me to put the rep in, because I know that like, I don't think this is really going to sell, but I got to get out there and just do it. And I did it, crickets, zero sales, whatever. That's kind of what I expected. I said, I really didn't try that hard. I was just trying to learn and try to do it and like get comfortable taking the first step. And then the next one I did, same thing happened, because again, I got like this, I don't know, I got held up at the last minute and I got really tired and I said, I didn't do as hard as I could. And then the third time, same thing happened. And I said, you know what? But I didn't stop. Yeah. The fourth one actually landed. The fourth one I modified and tweaked, but I also had gone and sought out new knowledge, gone new methods, new ways of doing things, observed, looked at what other people were doing in my space. I started becoming hyper aware of, oh, they're doing it this way. Cool. What if I tried that? And then just kind of tweaked and modified it to my style. And one thing that I noticed that when I succeeded with finally launching something in group form was I stopped trying to do what other people were telling me to do. And I did what I felt I could do the best and like lent into, well, this is my way of doing it. And once I kind of figured out my way by figuring out the things that made me resist, I lent into that and I was like, oh, that landed. And of course it did, looking back. Like, of course it made more sense because you were comfortable doing it that way. But when you tried to follow someone else's recipe, it came out a little bit wonky because it just didn't have the same flavors in it.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like chocolate chip cookies all day. My husband loves oatmeal raisin. I think he's crazy. So if I took his cookie recipe for oatmeal raisin, I would want chocolate chips, but it's like, I have to do it this way. So I'm a huge advocate for learning the rules to break the rules. And what that means is through every podcast you listen to and every course you take and every book you read, you're taking little tidbits here and there and you're collecting tools. And that's all this is. They're tools that you can use. And my hope is that one day you're standing in front of a nail that's stuck in a wall and you're like, oh yeah, I think I remember like that hammer thing that she showed me how to use. Actually, I could probably use a wrench too. And it's like, you could use either to pull the nail out of the wall, right? And I love how you said, because you said this on a call many years ago, but you said if you knew that your third launch or fourth launch was going to be the $20,000, $50,000, $100,000 launch, how fast would you move through the first 1, 2, 3? And that goes for anything. If you knew that your 100th podcast episode was going to be the one that did the whatever you want, it's like, how fast would you move through 1 through 99? And we actually got an email yesterday. You'd appreciate this, from a client who went through our signature program Empower just under a year ago. So just this time last year, basically. And he had a silent launch in Empower, which happens. It happens, right? Because a lot of times you don't have the reps yet. You don't have the time. You don't have the audience, whatever. Silent launch in Empower. And he emailed us to let us know he just crossed the 7-figure mark for the year. From zero, like from not having anyone join his program a year ago to crossing the 7-figure mark. And it was like, that might not even be your dream if you're listening to this right now. That might not resonate at all. That might be so far from what you believe to be true and possible. But it was like, wow, what a cool email to get too, where it's just like, he was so bummed at the first silent launch, but he picked his boots up, picked himself up by the bootstraps and just kept going. And like you said, taking feedback and tweaking and iterating and leaning into this and that and trying different things and being a scientist. And here he is a year later at 7 figures.
But I think it's also setting the right expectations for yourself and not minimizing what you're capable of, but from the standpoint of, I am doing this for the first time. I am winning by trying and I am doing my very best, but I'm going to learn so much out of this and I'm going to win through what I learn for the first X iterations. And like, if I financially have a windfall of it, fantastic, but I'm learning a ton along the way. I think there's something powerful in that attitude because then you're not really attaching to this like massive financial outcome. If you can avoid it, that's why like I did this when I was working and I said, okay, I don't need the money, but what I need to do is learn how to make the money and I need to figure this out. And it takes time, Jess. It takes so much time.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think you are in such a beautiful spot when you're doing that. A lot of times people come in who have jobs and they think that there's this rush to like leave their 9 to 5. And I look at it like, you have the most incredible loan that you don't have to pay back. Like, what a cool tool to have a safety net, albeit you might be unhappy in your 9 to 5. I was for the last 2 years I was there, but it's like, once I switched my mindset of like, it's kind of like a loan I don't have to pay back. And in the pockets of my day, I'm hiding in the broom closet and I'm learning these new skills and I'm building this thing on the side. What a gift. What a gift.
Yeah, but it regulated your emotional investment in the company and in the job, where you were like, this is hilarious too. We'll keep going on this for a second, but I don't know if I ever told you this like this way. After I started my own business and I was doing it part-time, right? I was still showing up to work, and I'm just that person, like, you're not going to see me half-ass anything. So of course I was burnt out, but I was not half-assing anything. I was still showing up to work. I was managing a group of 9 people. I was still being like Associate Director Shannon. And I was up for like promotions and awards that year. The year that I spent the least amount of time in that actual job and the most time going all in on my business, I started my podcast, everything, 2021. I got accolades and awards on like leadership. And I laughed my ass off because I was like, this is when I really stopped caring. And I started saying whatever was on my mind. And I started to like, F it. What are they going to do? Like I was kind of send the email, say the thing, hang up when we're done, close out at 5, don't respond to the email. Like I just kind of went, oh, this is liberating. And it was hilarious because it was kind of that weird. I got this feedback that was like, you've really exhibited some real strong executive presence and leadership, the way that you hold yourself and the way you're willing to, speak your truth. And I was like,
you're so good at boundaries.
You're so good at boundaries. Yeah. And I was like, 15 years deep in my career, I've been ass kissing and people pleasing. And this is what got me like they wanted to promote me. And I was like, well, this took a turn.
but to mirror what we were talking about before, that's the exact same thing as what we were talking about with the saturation. It's like, it is becoming an echo chamber. Everything does look the same, whether it's our content, our clothing, all of it. And it's like, what's the thing that got you to stand out? You just being like, F it, I'm going to just do and be what I want. And it's like, that's when they saw you the most. And so when we're thinking about saturation and content and all these things, yes, there are recipes and there are things that you could follow to make your journey a little bit easier, because there is an element of success leaves clues in the sense that like, why reinvent the wheel if it's working? And also make it yours, like you said. And so it's like, how do you make it yours? It's just by F it. Like, I'm just me. This is what I do. Yeah.
Yeah. I just like spoke my truth. And you know what it also did too, was it took away so much pressure of like, took the work out of, 45 minutes to write an email. Some of you can relate, where you're how do I say this?
Professionally.
And for some of us, it's 45 minutes in Canva making an Instagram post going, ooh, who am I going to offend if I say this, right? And it's finally just going, F it, this is me. Like me or don't like me, follow me, don't follow me. People start attaching their value to like the opinions of others, especially on social media. That can be so dangerous.
But you and I have also talked about like the whole Canva thing of who am I going to offend, who am I not going to offend when we're posting. Right. There's a very fine line. It's actually not that fine. But there's a strong distinction between being anti-vanilla and being pro-chocolate. Yeah. Or vice versa. So you can stand in your truth and you can say what you stand for and who you stand for and what people can expect when they work with you without tearing other people, models, methods, et cetera, down. And there's a difference there, because the default brain is very quick to snap judge and go, I don't like this. Here are red flags there. Don't do this. This person sucks because XYZ. That method doesn't work because XYZ. But that's kind of being on the defense. There's something more empowering for a consumer to watch you on the offense. This is what I stand for. This is what I believe. Because if you want to be a thought leader, which most people do, right? What a thought leader is I'm going to teach you how to think. And once you do that, then you end up coming back to learn because you think of me when you think of that problem or that solution that you're looking for. That's what thought leadership is. It's not tearing people down.
No, it's being the source of inspiration and not going there for, I don't know, for the dissension into all that other stuff. But, I've had that happen where I've seen content on social media. Lord knows I've seen enough text TikToks in my day that I'm like, this is tempting to respond to. Yeah. But, and I get people sending them to me. This is the hard part, is that they're in my DMs constantly. I love you guys for sending them to me. I really appreciate it. But there's a lot of, it's actually a trust builder, because they'll say something like, Shannon, is this real? And I'm like, thank you for thinking of me. That is the ultimate compliment. If y'all are sending me like, is this real? And I'm like, I'm the authority on it. That's so cool and very flattering. But I will watch it and then I will get queasy sometimes and I'll be like, okay, no, this is not real. However, what will you see me do? Not repost it with some like this is not true, blah, blah, blah. You will not see me comment. You will not see me do anything. What I then do is go make the content that explains the reverse. I just say, I'm going to neutralize this with how it actually works. I said, thank you for the content inspiration. I'm going to go post a thing that does this, but the way that I see it, tune into that and just share it that way. Because I said, I cannot stop other creators from creating garbage content that I think is garbage. They're not going to stop. But what you can do is neutralize it with creating better content and then finding your own success.
I love it. It's so good.
Yeah. It's so important to just like detach from that completely. And it's really challenging too, especially for folks who know, like, who are really passionate about what they do. I think it's really challenging, but I think it's so important to like have kind of a protocol on that and the way that you want to be perceived, because you definitely don't want to be the person who speaks ill of someone else.
No, not at all. And it is scary, especially at the beginning, to stand up and say, this is what I believe and this is what I think is right. Or, you know, are we allowed to change our minds? I had this conversation yesterday with some of our high level clients, and it was like, there are things that I used to teach, even inside of Empower, that I don't necessarily agree with anymore, because that was 6 years ago and I have evolved. And so that means the business has evolved. And thanks to you, that's why we named the company Digital Business Evolution, because we're always evolving and growing, right? And so it's like, it's okay to change your opinion on things. It's okay to grow and evolve. The
quote that I heard, I'm not taking credit, but you can take this, is the quote I had from one of my bosses that I worked with was, whenever we made a mistake on something, like I made a directive and it was turned out like that was probably not the right idea, but like we operated with the knowledge we had at the time, and that was the best thing we knew at the time. And he would say, we all reserve the right to get smarter.
Ooh.
We all reserve the right to get smarter. So whenever we made a mistake that was like, in retrospect, dang it, like I shouldn't have done that, or I was wrong, he would say, we all reserve the right to get smarter. And that would always de-escalate the blame, the shame, the like embarrassment. And he would say something like that. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. Like I am smarter for it. And now we move on, we move forward.
Yeah.
But I love that, because I started saying that in my team. I started saying that in my regular life, because I said, you know, we're all operating off of the information we have and doing the best we can.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
About that.
And on the subject, so we're talking a lot about social media and organic marketing. Let's leave with the listeners with some tactical tips they can use, because I know they would be hungry for some tips from Jess on how to leverage social media. You've been not just on social media marketing yourself, but you've been kind of following what's working, what isn't. You've jumped on things, jumped off of things, like been through a few things. What are you seeing working, and what are some tips you have for someone trying to just get started organically on social?
Yeah. First tip is also a common mistake, and that is what platform you should be on. That's a huge question. People think they have to be on Instagram or TikTok. The answer is going to be, you should be wherever your ideal client is hanging out. So if your ideal client is on LinkedIn, then you should probably figure out how to use LinkedIn. Also, at the beginning stages of your business, being omnipresent and being on all platforms is just not realistic. I have a team, and being on all platforms is just not realistic. It's like, in a perfect world, we'd all love to be on everything from Pinterest to TikTok to LinkedIn to, you know, all the things in between. But really, where is your ideal client hanging out? And there's two sides to this coin. So there's, where's your ideal client hanging out? But then also, what is your skill set and strength that you might not just be born into being good at this one thing, but there's an interest there. It's slightly more comfortable, or you're a little bit better with it. But of course, discomfort is okay. We want to lean into that. And what I mean here is, there's audio. So there's podcasting. If you love to be talking and interviewing, there's video. You could be doing long form or short form. If you hate video and you don't want to be on camera and you don't want to be editing and learning all these different things, YouTube is probably not the place for you, right? So just thinking about what really is your strength that you can lean in to start with, while equally taking into account where is your ideal client hanging out. And the way that you can figure that out is just through some quick conversations. And also, again, if you are the future version of your ideal client, where are you hanging out? Like I do hang out on Instagram. I love Instagram. I don't hang out on Facebook. I'm not scrolling around. Not really scrolling around on Instagram anymore either, but I'm not on LinkedIn, you know? So it's just, you really want to think about those things and then lean into your skill set and hone in on that, get really good at that platform before ever considering jumping to other platforms. And with that, sidebar, be mindful that you're not blindly following somebody else's dream, somebody else's business model, because you think you should. And this happens a lot too. It's like, well, Shannon has a podcast, I should have a podcast. That doesn't necessarily ring true, especially if you hate talking and you don't want to be on audio, right? Or you might hate consuming podcasts. We've got lots of different types of learners, lots of different types of buyers. In school, they teach you 3 types of learners. I teach 10. If you don't like learning auditorily, you probably won't love teaching auditorily. So you really want to consider that. For me, I'm a visual person. I love slideshows. I love graphs and charts. So I love a good like masterclass that I can do Canva slides for. But I also love talking. So put me on camera, put me on mic, and I'm good, right? So common mistake / tip is figure out first where is your ideal client and where is your sort of specialty that you want to lean into. That would be the first
I couldn't agree more with that. I think the thing that holds people back is they're doing what they think they should be doing and not what they will naturally build a habit in first. I think that's whatever you can do consistently is the primary thing. And that's what I did with podcasting. I said, I ain't getting dressed every day, getting on video. Nope, not going to happen. I didn't want to. And I said, if you want me to do something every day, there better not be a camera on me. And that's what I always said. And I've obviously switched to video. But for the first 2 years, that wouldn't have even happened if I had to be on video to make that happen. I said, you know what? I just want to be in my pajamas with a random thought and a microphone and let me go off and ramble. Yay, there's a place for me. There's a place for me to do that. And there's no better time. Yeah. I think right now than that you have so many choices in how you can do that.
Yeah, there's so many platforms. And also, I don't know if you did, because I feel like it might have been a gift from Jason, but you probably didn't have like the fancy setup and the Shure microphone and all the things when you first started your podcast, did you? Or was it a gift?
I did, because I mentioned I was starting a podcast and my husband was a former roadie. And he would be damned. Mm-hmm. He would be damned if I used anything but he's like, that Christmas was podcast Christmas. I'm telling you. I was like, I think I'm going to start a podcast. And he was like, well, we need to get you everything. Yeah. And I was like, I still don't know what half this stuff is. I just sit here and plug in.
That was my point that I was trying to make. Thank you, Jason, for ruining that. But my point is,
no, you don't need it.
Like, just start. See if you like it. Turn it into a habit.
I did like a dozen episodes on a voice note on my phone. You don't need this stuff, guys. You really don't. You don't need to have sexy radio, soft rock voice. You just need to talk into your voice notes. I know. You just need to talk into your voice notes while walking, even if you're huffing and puffing. I don't care. I think it's relatable, to be honest with you. I get a refreshing feeling when I hear somebody just recording voice notes. It feels much more like intimate and private. I don't know.
Yeah. We just drove cross country again for the 4th time this year alone. And because we moved from Arizona to North Carolina. Woo woo. Mm-hmm. And when Mike and I were driving last week, we actually recorded a couple podcast episodes in the car because we thought it would be really fun. Too. And we had a million hours of driving. And our editor just got back to us today and he said, of the 160 episodes or whatever that we have, he said it was his favorite to edit. It was just like such an organic, fun, light conversation. He said he felt like he was in the car with us and it was just like permission to, again, just do it messy.
Yeah, we've done that too. And we want to do more of them. With Jay and I I said, we got to record. I wish there was just but our Googles are probably doing it, or like Google Home things. But I said, we need to just have everything recorded, these conversations we have, because people would benefit. You got 2 nerdy business owners talking about God knows what, together, talking about communication with our customers. We're talking about everything under the sun. And I'm like, this would be a good podcast. So capturing that in the moment, regardless of how good it sounds or cosmetics of it, that's kind of the fun of it, though, is being able to do that spontaneously. So I agree with you.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you want more tips? I can do more.
Yes, I do. Well, okay. we gotta share some tips, but you gotta save some for your live event, which is coming up, right?
Yes, I'm so excited. It's around the corner. It's our big, should I talk about it? It's our big live event. Do you want to hear about it?
Yes, let's talk about it. Well, let's talk about it before we give them more tips, because I know they're going to get so much out of that too.
Yeah. So Digital Business Evolution Live Experience is a big virtual live event that we host every year. And it's totally free. It is a 3-part live event, but it's run across 2 weeks. So we give you plenty of time in between to watch replays, to do your homework, to make sure that you're really consuming the content. And one of our core values in our business is that everything we give away for free should be better than our competitors' paid products. And we really do that. We really, really, truly do that. We over deliver so much. So if you are wanting to get into business, if you're wanting to do organic social media marketing, if you're wanting to create a coaching program or a course, or you already have those things, like you can literally be a 7-figure business owner in course creation. This is a free event that I would encourage you to come to, where we're going to be talking about the proven roadmap that we have to scale that 6-figure sort of coaching business that you can create without needing a big following. As we're recording this, I have under 10K followers. Without paying for ads. We did 3 million in revenue before we ever started playing with ads, without spending hours on one-on-one calls. And we are giving you everything from the 7 different elements that you need to craft an irresistible offer. We're going to talk about common mistakes. We're going to give you our 5-step framework that the most successful coaches and entrepreneurs are using online. We're talking about trends. We're talking about do's and don'ts. We're just laying it all out there so that you literally can go soup to nuts to make sure that you have an offer by the end of this event. And you can have that launched out to the world if you wanted to.
Amazing. And I know this, it's basically like, I've watched this before and I can speak from experience. Now, my Empower, when I was in your program, we joke about this still, that it was Google Sheets and like hot glue and duct tape, and it was awesome. It was like you in Google Docs alive writing what you were saying, and you're like, I don't know, I think it kind of looks like this. Like you were drawing it, and then, which was so cool. And that turned into pretty canvas slides later. And I was kind of like, oh, I like the, it's like going to your old high school and like seeing the same graffiti on the wall. And you're like, I remember that. But it was cool. But it was, but what's so fun is that when I learned all this stuff from you, like the free thing, you're living up to this, because the free thing that you do is like everything we learned in Empower back then for free. It was like a condensed version of a lot of the biggest aha moments in there. Yeah. Now, it's not everything in Empower because you've expanded it so much. You teach so much in there. But I think in the first evolutions of Empower, you really found those milestones of the aha moments that people were getting. And I've attended your live experience before, and I can say firsthand, like, you just pound the aha moments in of like, yes, I remember that. Like, I remember learning this from Jess 3, 4, 5 years ago now. And it really does deliver. So I can speak to that firsthand.
Thank you.
So on that note, more tips for free.
Yeah. Well, and if you're interested in that, right? Well, you have a link for that.
Oh, of course we do. It's in the show notes, guys. There's a link in the show notes for the DBE experience. Definitely join us. I'm going to be there because I always love seeing Jess do her thing. She thrives. I mean, you're a teacher at heart, and literally we're a teacher. So you're really good with delivery, the curriculum building, and the formatting. So I know you're going to deliver again.
Thank you.
But yes, links in the show notes, guys, if you need that. But let's dive into some social media stuff.
Yeah. So I'd say
we'll wrap this up with a few more tips.
Sure. Another tip would be like so baseline, so boring, but really important. And that really is the messy action, right? It's just do it messy, do it fast. A lot of times people are waiting around until they have their perfect branding and they think they need their website first. And what's the perfect link to put in my bio? And how do I figure out how to make highlight covers? And everything needs to match. And oh my gosh, just put the content out there and start to see what you are enjoying and what your audience is enjoying, and really lean into that data, that metric of, okay, that did really well. That reel, that carousel, that post did really well. Let me put my scientist hat on and start to unpack why I think it did well. Was it the content? Was it the way it was written? Was it the time of day that I posted? And the more data, the more times you post that you get into this bank of content, the more you can start to see, oh, that's so interesting. It seems to be that every time I do a 5 steps to XYZ, or a how to do this, or I share my personal story, or I share a client testimonial, then it seems to do really, really well. So I would say just start throwing it out there. There is no perfect way to do content. And in the same breath, you do want to try a variety of content. So like I said earlier, there are 10 different types of learners. We tend to teach the way that we learn. And so if we love to read, we tend to do a lot of written word, maybe writing emails and blog posts and stuff feels really good for you, long form captions, etc. If we love audio podcasts, if we love videos, we tend to teach the way that we learn. What that means is if you were to go right now and look at your last 9 posts, let's say on Instagram, so your last singular grid, take a pulse check on how you've been showing up. If every single post is 7 ways, 5 steps, 3 tips, how to, that's going to feel very dry and very boring for your consumers. If we wanted to learn from an encyclopedia, we'd go directly there, right? We want a little bit more than that, especially in 2024. This is not new. Marketing's been around. Social media has been around. The coaching industry has been around now. So people are expecting more from you. And what that means is really stretching yourself outside of your comfort zone. And go ahead and write this down, take a pen out. If you're driving, obviously don't, but you can put this in the note section of your phone or just kind of fast forward back. Rewind back, actually. So there's different types of content, and there's a lot of different types, but you really want to stretch yourself so that sometimes it's educational, the how-to, the 5 steps, the 7 ways. Sometimes it's entertainment. This could be completely having nothing to do with your business and everything to do with your business at the same time. So this could just be something fun. It could be a life update. We just moved across the country. I have a dog. So it's just something light and fun that's entertaining, or it's you sharing another person's post or a meme or just something that you think is funny, because that's where people are like, yeah, me too. I think the same thing is funny. You can also do content that is social proof content. So sharing client case studies and testimonials and social proof that what you do works. You can share your own personal story. People buy from people. So we started this podcast off. I was introducing myself and I shared my story of how I had a breast cancer scare. I can share many stories of different times that I've burnt out, or my eating disorder, or RV life, or when I was a school teacher, or I went to University of Rhode Island. I have an older brother. It's like every time I say something about myself personally, someone in the room, virtual or real, might go, oh my gosh, me too, right? Wow, me too. I have a dog too. I'm a little sister as well. I live in North Carolina. So there's different elements of your personal story that are going to be really attractive to people. There's, of course, going to be trends that you can hop on. And that might be something like, it's end of year right now as we record this. Spotify does their yearly Spotify Wrapped. And then a lot of people jump on the trend on social media and they do sort of Wrapped for their business or Wrapped for their year, and they use the same templates. Or a trend that might be a dance, or a trend that might be an audio trend that's trending, music, something like that. So you can jump on different trends as well. That's going to be trending content versus more like evergreen content that can live forever. Trends sort of come up and come down really quickly. But again, we want to just toggle through the way that we're delivering content. So storytelling, personal, client stuff, social proof, educational, thought-provoking. We were talking about it before, being really polarizing, myth-busting. So write all this stuff down. I'm going quickly, but really challenge yourself every single day to just try to do a different type of content. And what you'll learn too is your audience is probably going to really eat up certain types. Certain types are going to be harder for you to create. Certain types are going to be easier. It doesn't mean cherry pick and only do the easy ones, but really using a variety of content is going to give you the best data. And it's all just an experiment with your business, with social media. And so really testing different elements out, different types of content, how you're delivering the content is going to be huge. Of course, we can talk about make sure you have a hook and a call to action and all that stuff.
Yeah.
You know that already.
Well, I think those are like the tactics that we do typically hear, right? But but there's an undercurrent there of everything you're saying, though, that all these different types that you can do to post, which I agree with. But I will like underline all of that and say, but it has to be fun.
Oh,
it has to be fun. Like, I couldn't tell you how many people are like, well, I have to post a polarizing piece of content today just for the sake. And I'm just like, no, like it's not that literal, guys. Like, have a mix. It doesn't have to be strict. It doesn't have to like. I try to do this with my team too, right? We're posting all this content and I'm just like, just do a few a week. And they're like, how many? I'm like, I don't know. Just mix it up. It doesn't matter how many. I mean, do you care how many of each color M&M are in the bag? There's a mix. I don't know. Just make sure there's a mix in there and they're not all brown, whatever it is.
We're talking about Starburst. They should all be pink. All right.
That is fair. That's why I don't use that example, because that's polarizing. There's your content. But Starburst, all pink.
All pink. If you say otherwise, I don't know if you should send me a DM.
Right. But see, okay. And then that's a great example, right? Because it's like, even if you posted that, it's funny because it's like clearly not literal, but it's like people who are also on the pink Starburst bandwagon are going to be like, 100% yes. And like respond to that poll or comment on that post or whatever. And just feel like they connected to you for a hot second. And that's really what you're going for, is just kind of creating a little bit of the network, the community, and the vibe there. I 100% agree with you. I know we have to wrap this up because you and I can talk all day, but one more time, guys, the show notes has the DBE live experience information. Do not miss this. Join Jess. She's always got something up her sleeve, always got amazing value to deliver. Do not miss it. Jess, anything else you want to leave our listeners with as we wrap up?
Ooh, there's so many things. I'm like, I feel like we just got rolling.
I know. We'll have to have you back.
We've dropped a couple good nuggets. What I would say is it's really not about you. So whether you're building a business, or we're talking about social media, or we're talking about the offer you want to create, the course, the program, whatever, it's not about you. And we get so caught up in us, right? Because we're ego driven. That's just how it works. Survival of the fittest, like we talked about before. When you can come back to the place of, this content isn't for you, it's for someone else. And this solution that you're offering is not for you, it's for someone else. And this fill in the blank is not for you, it's for someone else. And by you not putting it out there, by you getting so tripped up on the perfectionism, by you getting so caught up in what it means and the results you did or did not get, who are you actually stealing from? Who are you taking that opportunity away from? The information is everywhere. We know that. That's, we talked about saturation. People can Google it. They could YouTube it. The information is everywhere. But what is not everywhere is you. So information plus implementation equals transformation. That's the formula. People can find the information, but they're not doing the implementation by themselves. If they were, they'd already have lost the weight, gained the muscle, fixed their gut, built the business, had the perfect bookkeeping, right? Like, they're not doing the implementation by themselves. If they were, we wouldn't have some of the problems that we do have in the world. So
exactly,
they want your help. They want the support. They want that stuff, just like you do when you're looking for something that you're looking for. So we can talk about social media all day and launching and all these different elements, but at the end of the day, it really is just about making a bigger impact. What I would love so much is to give homework. Can I give homework?
Yeah, and then have them do it before they join you on DBE Live.
Ooh, okay. I'm such a teacher. So here's your homework. This is the deal. I promise it'll be helpful for you. I would love you, whoever's listening, to try a new type of post on social media. So if you always do the how-tos and you kind of default to the personal story, try something different. And when you do, and maybe that's just, you always do Canva carousels and now you want to do a reel, or you always do, talking head videos and now you're going to try something trending. When you try something new, I want you to DM it to me. And maybe, just maybe, I will actually audit your homework for you, but you have to DM it to me. So here's what you're going to do. The first step you're going to do is you're going to try something new on social media. The second step is you'll come over to my most recent post, which is about this episode with Shannon, and you're going to comment in the section of the post, and you're just going to say done, so that I can slide into your DMs and we can start a conversation, and I will maybe give out some social media audits.
Ooh, I love it. This is so great. Okay. And as I always say, the best way to thank Jess for her time and joining us today and everything she's taught you is to share something and spread the word, because this is not proprietary. We all learn from each other. So if you can go on social media and Jess, tell them your handle. We haven't even said that yet.
Oh my goodness. Very confusing, because I was introduced as Jess Glazer. That is my actual name. But on Instagram, my handle is I am Jessica DeRose, DeRose. So that's where I am on Instagram. I am Jessica DeRose.
Yeah, and we'll have that linked in the show notes too, guys, and we'll be tagging Jess and everything. Also, if you learned something from the show today, go on stories, snap a little screenshot of you listening to this podcast, tag me and Jess, and let us know what you took away from this conversation. I know there was plenty for you to pick from, but please let us know that you're listening and that you're enjoying the content. We always appreciate it. And Jess, thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate you. See y'all at DBE Live.